views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
For something, a new way, a new understanding, a connection, some comfort. You've got questions, and Light on Living puts the spotlight on all the answers so you can shine. Lift and lighten the load of life's challenges and learn simple and easy ways to live a healthy, happy life. You'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you. You're invited to hear new, see different, and feel more as Lisa shines the light on living.
Welcome, everyone, to Light on Living. I'm Light Coach Lisa, holistic nutritionist and life coach, helping to lighten the load of life's challenges. Making love greater than our pain. Oh, I just love that line completely. And really what that comes down to, any desire, this is actually from our guest that we are going to just talk to, and I love that she wrote this. Any desire that disturbs our peace of mind is a test showing us the weak link in our consciousness where we need to pour in more love. Today we have Jenny Lee, and she joined us from Hawaii as she teaches us how to breathe love. With the pairing of yoga and meditation, Jenny Lee shows us how it's possible to be relieved of external seeking, how to make love greater than our pain, and how to keep our hearts open even after being wounded. Today we learn how to hear, acknowledge, and feel the deep longings of our soul and move forward with love. Jenny Lee is the author of Breathing Love, Meditation in Action. That's going to be released in 2018, and I've had the pleasure of reading it. And also True Yoga, practicing with the Yoga Sutras for Happiness and Spiritual Fulfillment. That one's already out. You can get that. And just a little bit on Jenny Lee. She's been a yoga therapist, and that's a therapist, yoga therapist for the past 20 years. She helps people discover how to lead peaceful, authentic lives through the transformative practices of classical yoga and meditation. With love as her guide, she makes the ancient wisdom applicable to modern challenges and inspires people to realize their most loving self. You can always read from her. Her writing is featured regularly on Huffington Post, Mind Body Green, Yoga Therapy Today, and other yoga-related blogs. She is certified through the International Association of Yoga Therapists as well as Yoga Alliance, and she coaches a wide diversity of clients, all the way from age 6 to 94. And she's on the island, and I hope I say this right, Oahu. And she also does Skype internationally, so you can always get a hold of her. So welcome, Jenny Lee. How is everything over there in early Hawaii morning?
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm excited to be here, start my day with you and your listeners. Beautiful day here in Hawaii, so as always.
As always.
We're lucky that way.
I really, truly, I was so excited already to think, before I even read your book, before I even knew everything, I thought, breathing is something I really, because I hold my breath a lot because I get excited and I'm always tense in a good way, but breathing is something I've had to work on a lot as just a technique of getting life force. So when I read the title, Breathing Love, I thought, oh, wait a second, I could consciously wrap stuff into my breath, and maybe love could be the first of it. So where did that come from that you, like, it sounds like love's the answer to everything. Like, where did that come up for you?
Well, love is the answer to everything. That is for sure. But, the application of that is another thing. And we get so caught up in the stress of every day, and you're not alone in not breathing well. I mean, that's one of the first things that I work with my clients on is the breathing, because we have so much going on in our lives, and it's so easy to just kind of hold our breath and plow through it. And that really doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve our bodies or our mental health. So, starting with taking some deep breaths is always just a great grounding place to begin any practice, and certainly a meditation practice, tuning into the breath and seeing what's there. And it's a great indicator of our emotional state. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
And then you go, see, this is the neat thing, as I thought, okay, like you said, we all can acknowledge it or see it and think, okay, breath. And then we go to our, our community yoga class or something, and we were taught that foundation. But honestly, reading the book, I couldn't even stop. I plowed through your book, actually. And, because it actually, for me, it really, you brought up things and spoke about things, and I loved your personal stories that you share, but really brought up why breathing love, like specifically, is so important and intense. And the one thing I am jumping, because I did have all my notes in order, of course, but there's one thing it just really talks about. Pain doesn't have to be the only catalyst for change. And love can, and I thought, there's a lot of people out there they're in pain for numerous reasons. They're wounded on some level. And I am jumping. I know you'll find a way of working this in, but how can we use the breathing in of love then to be the catalyst for change?
Well, the quote you started with is actually one of my very favorite quotes, and it's kind of my guiding light in life. It's a quote by Paramahansa Yogananda, your love must be greater than your pain. And when I read that, it was one of those quotes that just stopped me in my tracks, because you're right, everyone has pain. Life is filled with pain on every level. And I think a lot of times it is what brings us to positive change when we have had something really difficult in our lives, and then we're seeking kind of relief from that or a change from that. So that is a positive of pain. But many of us can get really mired in the pain and get kind of stuck there, either in the story or in the feeling of being a victim of the circumstances that have come to us in life. And so when I read this quote, it just stopped me in my tracks, because I thought, wow, what a profound paradigm shift. If we could, in fact, intentionally grow our love to be greater than whatever pain has come our way, is this possible? and can we do it? And what would that mean? And how would that change how we approach life? And so I've been personally kind of reflecting and sitting with this quote for many, many years now, and letting it be my guide, really. And it is what brought me to writing this book. So I just love that you keyed into that very point, because it's so critical, and it really is a choice. It's a choice that we have to make. It's not an easy choice, but it is an important choice. And once we make it, it changes everything.
And honestly, and this is crazy, because when I was reading, I love that you start off with a quote, you go through some explaining or definition or instruction, and then you do share a personal story. And I don't even know what the word is. I want to say proud and happy and all these things, but you literally did stop in the moment of feeling pain, being hurt, abandoned, abused, all those things. But in that moment, where I was able to reach into, I love this, your container of transformation. But and in that moment, you said, "Wait a second here. I have the choice." Do how does one, we can get so enraged or so victimized, and so how do we just even remind ourselves, how do we remember to stop in the middle of pain to do this?
Yeah, and I definitely want to point out that this has been a 30-year process for me, and that I don't imagine that anyone is going to, immediately the light bulb is going to turn on and everything is going to change in an instant, because that's not really how it works. Transformation is a process for all of us, and so it takes daily work, and that's why the subtitle of the book is Meditation in Action. And so I have a strong belief and personal practice of meditation. The daily practice of coming into stillness and checking in with all that's happening in our internal world, and then stepping back from it just enough to see that, okay, we're here watching all of these emotional reactions to the circumstances of our lives. We're here watching all the thoughts running through and all the judgments and beliefs and this and that. We're here watching the body breathe. But there is that I, there is that greater self that is above all of those circumstances. And so it's really important that we have those moments in stillness on a regular basis, a daily basis, that enable us to pause and reconnect to something deeper within ourselves that is not connected to just the constant movement of life and the story of life. And that's how we can begin that process of transformation, because when we create that space and we start to tap into the deeper self, then when the difficult moments of life come, we can take that breath, that conscious breath, and choose. All right, do I want to react to this from fear and anger and my pain body, or do I want to react and respond from love?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and so much conversation right there about stillness, about pausing, about reflecting, and that is bringing up something huge for me, and because what I hear from people too, and that I think, and I love that meditation and yoga are both a discipline, because there are so many attachments to an identity for us to even sit still, going, okay, wait, but I should be doing something else, or I have too many other things to do, or what makes me think I have the luxury to sit here and just breathe, and think. And there's one little other paragraph or a quote that you've written, and I just loved it. It's essential that we direct the soul's longings appropriately so they do not corrupt into cravings and addictions, pulling us deeper into the identification with the ego rather than the spirit nature. When you wrote that, I was like, oh my God. And we direct the soul's longings. And so it's when we're meditating, is that one of the things we're doing in meditation, is directing the soul's longings?
Wow, that's a very interesting sort of pairing of concepts, Lisa. Well, firstly, I want to go back to something you said about thinking, what do I have the luxury of sitting here when I have this big to-do list?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people think is, I don't have time for meditation. Who has time to sit still for 30 minutes? So you touched upon something important. And I want to say that I don't believe it's a luxury. I believe it's a responsibility, and that we all in this crazy world, the very first thing that we should put in our day is some practice, and for me it is meditation, but it's some practice that grounds us in our best self. So maybe that's prayer if you're a religious person. Maybe it's nature if you're somebody who really connects with the outdoors. However you experience that higher, more divine part of yourself, get connected to it daily. This is actually our responsibility. Our world is crazy right now. And if we just throw ourselves out into our day without being grounded,
and that's my fault for not, we are coming back to that responsibility in 2 minutes.
Okay.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Welcome back to The Cat Show. Up next, we have Nico. Nico is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right. A group known especially for their sunspot sleeping, ball chasing, leg rubbing, and of course, companionship. Just look how she struts.
It's like she owns the place.
And see how she curls up and cuddles her person.
The pitch on her purring is simply perfect.
Nice one.
Fantastic cat. But really the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Nico is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
And we're back with Jenny Lee, a published author, and her upcoming book, Breathing Love. And just before, that was so well said. I'm actually going to use that response that this is my responsibility, not a luxury, to be able to do my practice that grounds me to my highest self. And thank you for sharing. That was actually beautiful, beautiful. And I'll let you continue on that with my crazy question about the craving, like the addiction to life and different things, pulling us away from identifying with our spirit nature, and how meditation fits into that.
Yeah, that's great. I did want to circle back to that, the concept of longing. And, when it comes to the topic of love, I think people really can relate to this concept of longing. There's a deep, deep longing in our hearts for love. We all want to feel loved, and we all want someone or something to love. It's part of our intrinsic nature. And so, but in our world, that feeling, the emotional factor of love, can get really distorted. And so a big part of what this book is about is separating out what is true, deep, real, spiritual, divine-based love, which is pure and within us all at all times, regardless of who or what is around us on the outside. And the kind of human concept of love that we see reflected in all the stories and products and everything else that's part of our commercial culture these days that utilizes that sort of feeling of love. And so, here we are, we're human beings. We, by nature, have this sense of duality. We like this person, we don't like that person. We're attracted to this something and we're not attracted to that. And so we bounce between these, either following a desire or trying to avoid something that we don't desire. And it's really a never-ending game that creates a lot of suffering. And so where meditation fits in with this dilemma of being human is that it gives us, again, that pause where we can step back and we can watch everything that's going on. We can go, oh, wow, I'm really attracted to this person, but on the other hand, they're not good for me maybe in this other way. And so we can just sort of step back and become the witness and not be so dragged around by our emotional, the emotional part of our being, because it's really important that we begin to associate with that part of ourselves that is more pure. And pure is not a word that we hear a lot in the world today, but pure is such a, the concept of purity is, we do cleanses for our bodies because we're trying to get the toxins out, but purity of our spirit is where we can connect again to that energy of love that, again, I said, is within us all, regardless of what's happening on the outside. It is our true nature. And so we've got to have practices that enable us to come home to our inner being and find that wellspring of love that lives inside us, because it absolutely does. It is our true nature. And then from there, we can move back out into life. So when we leave the meditation cushion or the temple where we're praying, we move back out into life and we're connected to that. And then we interact with people in a much different way. It's not about, oh, I have to be with you because you'll give me something that I need so much. No, you're being fed from within, and you can just be with that person in a much more neutral way and, compassionate way rather than a needy way.
And actually, it makes me think about, because you're using the dating reference, let's say, and, a new friend will say, oh, what's your type? And so you're right. They're asking, there's a division. What is it you do like or attracted to, or that? Actually, you talk about the word called Maya, the M-A-Y-A, and how it's dividing force. And that's the best way I can kind of think. Can you, because I feel like that's fitting in here somewhere as a definition of, is Maya good? Sorry, now I'm asking for you to divide it, but is Maya something that just exists, or is it something that we do want or don't want?
Yeah, that was great. Is Maya good? Well, Maya comes from Sanskrit, and it is the concept of this duality. So it's the dividing force in the universe versus love, which is the unifying force. And if you think about it, love is what brings us into harmony. It's what brings us into unity. It's what attracts us to things. Maya is the opposite of that. It's the force that divides, that creates the good and the bad, the like, the dislike. And so, it's part of our experience in being human. It's just what this dimension kind of runs on. But so it's not good or bad. It just is. It's like gravity, up and down. Well, it's just there. We got to live with it. This is what is. But there's a way of living within it that can be peaceful, or there's a way of living within it which can be kind of crazy making.
Right. Okay. And so because we're definitely going to have time for this commercial before the commercial, because you really see, I've never, the practice of meditation. Can it be done while doing yoga, or is that something that you want to separate?
Sure. This is a big topic. This is what I talk about all yoga, my first book. That's what that one is all about. So if you're curious about the connection between yoga and meditation, definitely check out True Yoga. But quick synopsis on that question. True Yoga is meditation. The classical texts do have like a fraction that talk about physical postures. Really, the physical postures were just created in order to support our bodies so that we can sit in stillness. That's the whole reason they were created. They were not created to support our awesome pants and, look really hot in postures on the mountaintop. That's not what yoga was created for. So yoga really is about meditation. That's the pinnacle of the yogic path. And so they're not separatable. They're one and the same. It's just that in the Western world, we've keyed into this one tiny aspect of yoga, which is the postures, and that has become kind of the primary thing that people think of as yoga. But really, yoga means union. So the union of our spirit and our individual spirit with the greater oneness spirit is what the purpose of yoga is and all the practices. And so meditation is, again, what takes us there, that ability to come back into stillness and reconnect to that pure self within.
Now I'm starting to realize why I so deeply literally fell in love with this book, because you're right, it's not just about yoga the way the Westerners might look at that yoga way, but that leads me to, I feel like breathing love and true yoga and meditation, the practice itself, is that check-in point to ourselves and our souls. And where are we? Are we following, pure true self, or are we off to, check out those addictions and cravings? And then I think about when people say, do what you love to do in life, follow your passion, do your passion. And you have this one definition of a true passion as the spiritual impulse to create and expand. I adore that so much, and saying that's, oh my goodness, because a lot of people ask, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what I'm passionate about. And then when I read that about, when you're passionate about something, that's when your spiritual impulse to create and expand. When we're checking in and doing meditation, is that a time to just check in, or are we asking for guidance? Or are we asking for help?
Yeah, so I think, on the passion thing, let me address that really quick. So there are the physical passions, the things that we are physically pulled to, whether that's some experience or some food or some person. And that's a little bit different than sort of the spiritual passion that I'm talking about in that quote that you read, which is, of course, about listening to that deepest love within our hearts and allowing it to make us our biggest, most expansive, loving self. And so the passion that we want to follow is the one that makes us that best version of ourselves. It's the one that serve the greatest good, not only of ourselves, but of others as well. It's not the selfish sort of personal passions that we get caught up in the physical realm. Does meditation, I think your question was about what are we doing in meditation? And to me, meditation is really a time just of listening. On the opposite side of the coin from prayer, where prayer is more of a communication with the divine. Meditation is my time to shut up and listen. So it's the point of the meditation techniques that we might practice are to concentrate the mind in a way that will enable us to get quiet and hear that guidance from our highest self about the right choices in our life, the right behavior to elect, the right Dharma path to take for that expansion that you mentioned. So I hope that answers the question.
That is, I can't believe that that's incredible. I think meditation is a little more of a listening, and a prayer is more of that communication with the divine. That is, I love that so much. And so when we're listening, I'm going to assume I'm in a witnessing mode, like I'm the observer now of myself. And that would be kind of tricky not to judge things. So when things come up that might be judgmental, like we find ourselves in there, is that when we start breathing and calling in that love?
Right. So that's true. The mind is tricky, and it will, it's listening. Maybe it gets what seems like some divine guidance, and then the mind wants to overlay that and analyze it and judge it and pull it apart. And so there's kind of this inner war that happens. And so, yes, that would be the exact moment to say, okay, let me just breathe love in. Let me breathe love out. Let me just anchor into the energy of love that's within me. And the more you do that, then those warring voices start to quiet down, and it becomes a much more tranquil place where then you can quickly notice which is the voice of the soul and which is the voice of the ego. And I know I always want to listen to the voice of the soul because that's the one that has my highest and best intent at its agenda. The ego has all kinds of selfishness as its agenda. So the practice of breathing love, it's so simple really, is just calling that in that moment and saying, no, let me stop. Let me stop this internal back and forth.
When we go, because we are going to sneak off to commercial, but when we do come back, I was going to ask you if you might just take us through a practice of just showing us how that goes. Okay, perfect. We'll be right back.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
We're back with Jenny Lee, and I've asked her just before the break if she would actually lead us through a little bit of a short meditation and the style and the exercises. And I did catch, Jenny Lee, that I want to ask you about this. I read that we can get our breathing when we're meditating to between 4 and 6 breaths a minute. Is that just because that's the speed at which is a nice slow breathing, or is there a reason for that specifically?
Yeah. So if you were to time your breath, if you were to set a timer for a minute and time your breath, I would guess that you're breathing between 10 to 12 breaths per minute. Most people breathe fairly rapidly, and it's kind of a reflection of how we move through life. And so the practice of slowing our breath down is one of the simplest practices that we can do to lower our stress level. And there have been studies done that say kind of the optimal amount of breath per minute is this 4 to 6 breaths per minute. And you'll find, actually, again, if you set a timer and you try to breathe only 4 to 6 times, it'll feel challenging at first.
Right.
And there's a correlation, and the yoga teachings talk a lot about this, the correlation between the breath and the mind, and how as we are able to control our breathing, we're more able to control our mind. So those reactive tendencies that we have based on our belief systems and our judgments and everything else will be less in control of our lives. If we learn to control our breath, then we're more apt to be able to control our reactions, our speech, and our thought. So that's very important. And what I'd love to lead you through right now is just the basic kind of breathing love meditation that is in chapter 2 of the book. So it's a way it's not necessarily a way of controlling the breath. I'm not going to do a timed breath. But it's just a way of putting people in touch with this concept of what breathing love is and how we can experience what that brings to us. So would you like to do that?
Oh, my goodness. My heart is open and ready.
Well, in fact, the breath reflects so much of our heart and whether our heart is open or closed in the moment. So obviously you have a very open heart, Lisa.
Well, I'm glad you said that, though. Just to highlight that, everybody listening right now, I love that you highlighted that. Whether your heart is open or closed, so even if you're feeling, no, I don't want to do it, it's okay. You can even just listen and just go along because you're going to get some benefit. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have to honor where we are, but we don't have to stay there either. So it's about accepting ourselves in the moment. And so the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just to place one hand over your heart and connect. Take a breath and connect. What's there? Is your heart feeling open? Is your heart feeling closed? Maybe you've just had your heart broken, and so that heart is feeling a bit tender. Well, placing the hand over the heart can be a beautiful way of just grounding back to yourself and saying, I'm going to pour love in right here first, because it is important to love ourselves. And so with that hand over the heart, then I'm going to ask you to open your other hand just somewhere on your lap. Take another breath or two, just feeling the breath moving in your body, feeling it move in that heart center. Conscious breathing in and of itself is just hugely powerful. And so then as we begin to breathe love, as we breathe in deeply, I'm going to ask you to close the hand that's on your lap and feel like you're receiving both the breath and love, like you're taking something in, holding this precious love in your hand and in your heart. And then on your next out breath, breathe out and open your hand. And just feel that simultaneous offering of the breath back to the universe and the offering of love out into the world through your hand. And there's this interplay between giving and receiving. And we can't receive love until we give love, and vice versa. So every breath is our opportunity to breathe love in, close the hand, receive, and breathe love out, open the hand, offer. And we're all connected, so every breath that I exhale in love, offering out, you then inhale that and you receive it. And every exhale that you offer out in love, I inhale, I receive that. And we share this breath, we share this love, this interchange. And the energy of love is all around us, all the time. It's within us all the time. It's not specific to one person. You just, again, breathe love in. You see, close the hand, feel it in your heart, hold it for a moment, and then breathe love out. Open your hand. And so this is the practice, Lisa. And you could sit for many minutes and just do that very simple practice. Every chapter in the book has multiple practices offered at the end to ground this material into, tangible ways to experience it and do it. But this is one of the simplest ones. It's something that's so easy for anyone to do. You don't have to be a meditator right now. You don't even have to take, 30 minutes. You can take 2 minutes, 1 minute. Yeah. Honestly, if you were to do this for 1 minute every day, really intentionally, it would shift a lot of things for you.
I can feel it already. And funny enough, when we were just starting, and I was, the hand on the heart and then and open, and then you had me do that next thing, and I'm taking it in love, and then I'm letting it go. I thought, oh, look, we can give it too, and I was already excited. And then you threw in the new dynamic that, somebody else is receiving it, and then I went, oh my goodness, and then you said, no, you're receiving it, and I was kind of going to explode. I was all excited. And the breathing was keeping me grounded. But that is this, just within that, which was, like you said, for a very few moments, I was expanded. Where I was in my heart and mind just expanded, and I didn't feel alone. At the beginning, I was like, oh, look, this is a self-practice. I get to do this for me. And then I was like, no, wait. It's for everybody. And I do want to bring up that you said, and I didn't write when I was doing this, so now I can't remember, but I think it says that we're not separate. Everybody has this love and concern with that. Yes,
we're not separate. Yeah, this is such an important concept, Lisa. I think so many people feel isolated today. Yes. And there's this disconnection that's happening. And it's so interesting because we have all this social media and we're so supposedly more connected through it. But really there's a veil, there's a shield, kind of a barrier as a result of that's keeping us from the interpersonal connections that were the way of the past. And it's really, really important that people recognize and feel that they are not alone. And we're not alone. I mean, what I mentioned was that every breath I exhale, you on some level are inhaling. I mean, it's that butterfly effect, right? Something that happens 1,000 miles away is on some level affecting me here in Hawaii and you there. And so we have to remember that although on the human level of things, we might not be connected in the ways that we want to be yet, that on the spiritual level, we are all one. We are all part of this love energy. And the more that we individually connect back to that, it will then translate out into the human experience and make us more connectable in the human dimension. So that's the correlation. It doesn't just stay in the spiritual realm of things as sort of this intangible practice. It's very tangible. It makes us more open-hearted, more available to human connection. It makes us more compassionate human beings, more able to empathize with others and more available for others to empathize with us. And so it builds connectivity.
There's this is gonna be a big circle, but when we just talked about not being separate, and how I really am feeling the need to express to people we have, and ask you to pull this together for me, is that there's a difference between we are not separate, but there's a difference from being attached to people and the pain that comes from when an attachment, it has failed or lost, someone's passed away, a relationship has been broken apart, because there's a big difference between feeling united and not separate and being attached. And I would love, because I know we have time for that commercial, if you could share with us, because, and I'll just say this one, there was this one story that you wrote in your personal story part in the book. I'm not a crier, I'm a laugher, but oh my gosh, I cried so hard because of the love that you were able to recognize with this wonderful man in your life, that you could still love and be united, but not attached as he left.
Are we going to commercial right now, or should I jump into that?
We have a minute and a half, and then we can always pause and come right back into it. So yeah, jump into it.
Okay. Okay, right. So attachment, and I do have a chapter on this, that attachment is the opposite of love, really, because attachment is based on desire, and desire keeps us from the pure love that is what we're all really wanting to feel. And so we have to separate attachment from love. It's hard to do. It's natural to be attached to those that we love. And believe me, I'm not perfect at this either. I have a husband and a son, and if anything were to happen to either one of them, I would be heartbroken, and I have my own attachments. But attachments do keep us from the purest form of love. So to the best of our ability, and again, this is all a process, to the best of our ability, we have to step back from the desires that are caught up in the attachment, the desire to be with this particular person or to have this particular person give to us in a particular way. And if we can just show up and love them as they are, where they are, how they are, it creates this field of expansiveness and freedom for both of us, both us and that other person, that is so powerful and so beautiful to be in. And I'll be happy to talk about that specific story and relationship when we come back from the break, because it's a good example of how I shifted in that regard.
And, and to that, with that story, I think that we'll jump into is freedom, because I realize too, and that doesn't even come up as we're talking about everything, but really when we're talking about love, and you said in the beginning was really we're all looking for freedom. And that story is going to actually be perfect for the freedom aspect of it. So, and just in case, as anybody forgets, it's called Breeding Love, and that book is out 2018. But when we come back, love and freedom.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
And we're back with Jenny Lee, and we just had the beautiful opportunity to do a mini many basic and beginning foundational exercise with how to breathe, love, and meditation there. Jenny, we're going to share this beautiful story with you that you did share in the book, but I just want to put a little note in here for all the listeners. We will be sharing how you can get in touch with Jenny Lee and also how she does this retreat with dolphins. So if anybody is kind of curious about that, just stay tuned. But let's jump back into that, because that story, I mean, there was all your personal stories really, grabbed me. But with that one specifically, I really honored and loved that you both recognized what you did. So if you'd love to share that, I would love to hear that.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think this is a really relatable story in the sense that most of us have had long-term relationships that have ended in one way or another. And sometimes we're the one ending them, and sometimes we're the one being left. And, that's really painful. And this particular story was about a long-term relationship that I was in that was a man that I loved deeply. And I just came to a point, however, where I knew that to continue on with our human lives together was not the right choice for me. And yet it was really, really, really difficult to end the relationship because of the love that was between us. And, we got into this topic because of attachment. And so when we feel love for someone, we do become attached. And it's really hard to conceive of our lives without them. And this is why people suffer so much from human relationships, is the attachment part. And so what I had to do, and what I share in the story that you're referring to, is I had to really separate the love that I felt from him from the relationship that I was in with him, because I knew that the relationship wasn't right, but that the love was right. And I didn't want to stop loving him. In fact, I still love him, and I'm now married to someone else, but I still love this person. In fact, I love everyone that I've ever been in a relationship with, because love doesn't end. And so whether you, again, are on the leaving side or the being left side, just know that love itself, the energy of love, does not end, and love lives within you. And so that is what you have to concentrate on and breathe into and magnify and bring to greater and greater heights within your own being, in order to not only heal from the wounds of human relationships that we all go through, but also to spiritualize your love in a way that is not so connected to these individual people, but that can be given again to all the many others who need our love. And so it's just that love doesn't end. It's energetic, and yet it changes form. And so we can't be attached to the form. And what has been really beautiful about this particular relationship, and I can't completely speak for him, but I feel like we both have shifted in a way that honors what we had and continues to offer love out into the world, but have been able to heal and move on from that ending.
I just so appreciate you being so honest in all the stories that you share throughout that book. So if anybody's real, this book really does a lot. You've got a little like a soap opera going on, but then you have the lessons of it, and then you have the practices and the techniques and the explanations. I have a question on that one, because this is something that I faced in my life on probably every single relationship I've ever been in, and it's actually even halted relationships that I would have liked to have continued. However, the ego on their part wouldn't allow it. Now, I too continue to love everybody that I've ever loved. I don't feel it just goes away. And so what if people face a situation that they're like that, they do, but then they date someone new, but that new person says, oh, no, I don't want you loving any other man that you've loved before, so you have to remove them from your life, or they have a jealousy thing that comes up. Does that mean that it's maybe our responsibility to then guide and teach that person them, or is that their own soul journey that, then we say, well, tough luck, sailor, I'm off. How do we handle that?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. So, I mean, it's something my husband and I have talked a lot about, because, it is human nature to not want to feel like there's somebody waiting in the wings that you're offering love to and is going to threaten the primary relationship in some way. And so it's really not about that. Again, I'm not really in contact with this person. We don't communicate much, and there's no interplay between us in this time. That wouldn't be appropriate given that I'm married now and in a new relationship. So it's not about continuing to foster a relationship with that person that you love. Love can just be held in your heart for them and everyone. In fact, it should be. We should be loving everyone to the best of our ability, even strangers and politicians that we don't agree with. And so it's not about maintaining a human relationship. And I think that's what actually gets threatening to the next person that you might be in relationship with. But then the second part of your question was, should you try to educate that person? Well, that's always tricky. You can just share where you are and share what you're trying to do, maintain an open, loving heart and not, have to shut somebody out just because you're in a new relationship. Well, you can still love them. You just don't have to necessarily talk to them or text them every day.
Right. Yes, exactly. And I like that, just maintaining the love. And it does, like you said, where it's not we lead by, not example even, but we're just displaying how we act. We just be who we are, be authentic, be as loving as we are at that time. And you actually, I want to bring this up. I just read that you do these kind of breathing love retreats and dolphins. And I love that you bring that in. So yes, tell us about that.
Well, this is actually the first Breathing Love retreat. It's in honor of the book that's coming out in January. So we are taking a retreat in April to the Bahamas, and we're going to be swimming with dolphins. And dolphins are some of the most loving, amazing creatures on the planet, and they're very conscious breathers. And so I really wanted this to be the theme. Yeah, they come to the surface to breathe, and they're just amazing. So it's kind of the perfect blending of themes. And I don't have very many spaces left, so if you're interested, please do hop on my website, jennyleeyogatherapy.com. Hopefully Lisa will have that posted somewhere, and check it out because there's only a couple spaces left on that retreat in April. But it's going to be a fun one, and we're going to do lots of breathing love practices and meditations and some yoga, physical yoga as well. So, yeah.
Oh, that's just actually, it's funny you're saying about the conscious breathing, and I thought, oh wow, and of course my mind went to, did we study this? Is it scientific? How does that work? And then I was just laughing because it wasn't originally mine. My nieces decided that they weren't going to take care of their little frog anymore, and that my sister, I adopted a frog, and he's a dwarf frog. I know nothing of amphibians and frogs and fishes, and of course I got a fish. So I was thinking about this, and I thought, well, oh goodness, the frog has to come to the surface to breathe. I was like, I've never seen him do this yet. I know he does. And you just made me think about that, and because I gave him a new little rock to sit on so we could get close to the top, and because they're not thinking about the way I'm thinking of course, wrapping this whole breathing thing up. But this frog, he's like, oh, he needs access to it. And so I just love that I'm now connecting, like all of we have to have access to breathing. So that's where...
Well, we have to stay connected to our breath. That's the most important thing. And that's kind of where you started this conversation this morning. Sometimes you forget to breathe. And so the first and most important thing we can do is just to connect. Remember, take those deep breaths and match them with love. Take the deep breaths of love in for yourself and out for everyone around you.
Oh, right. Yes. See, I love that. The reciprocity of breathing. Oh, my goodness. In saying all this, there's just a few more things I want to squeeze into this. If you could, just share with everybody, first of all, where they can get to you. Where can they reach you? Where can they find you? What's the best way to do this?
Sure. So my website is Jenny, with on IE, Jenny Lee, yogatherapy.com. And that has all my contact information. You can call me, Skype me, email me. I'm very accessible. I'm very responsive. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. I work privately coaching clients all over the world. So any time zone that we might be in, you don't have to come to Hawaii. I can connect with you. So if you'd like to do some personal coaching work, just reach out. And if you're interested in the retreat, all the information is under the retreat tab on the website. So, yeah, JennyLeeYogaTherapy.com.
Okay, great. Because people, I just honestly, into that the book, Breathing Love, is just, I truly can't wait for it. Can we pre-buy it, or is it we have to wait? We totally have to wait for it to come out?
It's on Amazon right now, so you can order it on Amazon right now. It will physically come to you probably the end of December, but please do pre-order. It's great because it lets the publisher know how many people are interested and how many they need to print. And so, yeah, by all means, go ahead and jump on Amazon and look up Breathing Love, Meditation in Action, and pre-order your copy so you'll have it by the end of the year, hopefully, and start the new year right with some great practices.
Oh, they really are. And you know what? I think you've actually really done it for me. I know I am and have what I will. And I was originally going to ask you, but now I have a new twist on this. Does meditation ever get any easier? But when you said something about meditation doesn't get easier, it becomes more tranquil. And I think that when you said that, and then it allows us to sit in comfort with the control, I think that's where, if anybody, if that one piece of advice you could just let anybody know about really committing to that time of practice for themselves, if that one last message to leave off with, that would be absolutely perfect, Jenny Lee.
Sure. Yeah. Meditation, there's lots of challenges with finding the time and sitting in comfort and all of that. And there's lots to be shared about that. But, again, remember that this is for you. It's a gift for you, and it's also partially your responsibility to the world in which you're living. So it's this time to connect back to the love that's in your heart, to your highest and truest nature, to come into stillness, even if it's for a few moments every day. It's such a gift to yourself. It's a way to just ground into your best version of you and feel the love that is within, really connect to that. Even if you're not feeling it now, you will start to feel it if you make it a daily practice of sitting in stillness. I can't emphasize enough how valuable that is. And even if you find it difficult at first, just hang in there and just do a little bit each day, and the gifts will follow.
Aw, well, thank you so much for sharing this time, Jenny Lee. Just absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, so much for having me.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye, everyone.